are ready to begin. We thank you so much, and we have waited for you your entire lives. Now, we say that all the time, and each time that you hear it, you get closer to understanding why. But again, today, we went out of our way to make sure that you would understand it on a much deeper level. And we know that we always say this when we're going to do one of these sessions. We give Roger so much to do beforehand, so he gets a little discombobulated, we might say, but we did this for you. We had him sit last night and create a little ebook that you all will receive with the replay of this, because we need you all to have it. You have been on an extraordinary journey. You have been on an extraordinary journey to come to this time, this day, so that you would understand the message that we have on the board. Now, we did this in a way that you would understand the divine plan that is part of your life. We keep using dates because we want you to understand your linear time, because you use that to keep track of your life, your progression, because you are always progressing in consciousness. You are multi-dimensional eternal beings, and you come into the world at particular times, in particular incarnations, so that you can evolve. And where you are evolving is through your limitations, your things that have held you back, and today is the day that you were meant to do it. Today that is the day that you were meant to let go of those things and start living the life that you wanted to have. All of you. And we come to you because we are speaking from source. And this is why your higher self hears us. Many of you have said to Roger often that it sounds as if we are speaking directly to you. We are, because it's your consciousness. The only thing that happens is when we speak, you hear it a bit more. You start to pay attention. But you have been on a journey that was to cause you to evolve and expand in such a way that you would help your planet, that you would help your world. Your planet is going through an ascension. None of the events that are happening in your world have been accidental, and your life has not been accidental. The title of the little ebook that we are giving you is showing you that you have never been accidental. Your life has never been accidental. Nothing that's occurred in your life is ever accidental. You only figure it out later, just as Roger does. And we used him as an example for each of you, just to show you that you have a divine plan, but you decided to be incarnated now. You started to live this life so that you could help your world. The divisions that are happening in your world are energetic, and they are happening because we wanted you to be here. We're saying that's from source. We're saying that you all decided to be on the planet at this time so that you could evolve and help your world. Now, you know that everyone's not doing the same thing. There are many people who will not hear us, who would never even understand what we are saying, but you do. You're supposed to love yourself. You're supposed to do that thing that you're working on, that creative project, that thing that you thought you were supposed to do. Yes, you're meant to do it, and you're meant to do it now, because when you do it, you will start to emit light and love into your world, and that will shift the balance. The balance that is occurring now, as we've told you, has been generations. It's eons that has been changing, and it has been off base. And each of you are here to change the balance. And you do that by deciding to love who you are and to move through the generational imbalances that have existed on your path, on your evolutionary path. Your evolutionary path is connected to all those beings who came before, who are connected to your individual DNA, because you are all particulates, you're all particles of source. You're all part of God. And so you come into the world to experience that, and everything that you live is to cause you to know that on a much deeper level. You are only using everything in your world, this physical existence, this 3D, three-dimensional existence. You're only using these things to expand your soul. So yes, sometimes they're challenging. Sometimes they're really difficult. Sometimes they're uncomfortable, but that's what's kept you in fear. Everything that we have given you is to get you to move beyond fear and doubt so that you could love yourselves. That's all, because that is the most important thing that you could do. You are the most important person in your life, and you figure that out as you live. Now, we use Roger as an example because he doubted for so long, and we wanted you to see the trajectory of his life so that you can apply it to yours. We gave him these messages all on the 19th of February. This is no accident that we picked this date. There's a new moon today that is so powerful, and many on your planet understand this, and that's why the energies are available for you to use if you decide to love who you are and decide to create this magnificent life, because it's within your power. No one was born with more ability, talent, or skill than you, because you're all equal. You've just spent generations figuring that out. And so what's happening now is that there's great division in all parts of your globe. everywhere in your world that are happening because of you. They're happening because you wanted to be here to help change. And the only way you help that change is by deciding to do what you came to do and to love it and to start to understand your importance. There's no one more important than you. And this is every single message that we have ever given you was to get you to understand that. And as you read the little ebook, we would love for you to take time with it, because as you read it, each time you will find that your brain will change. Because that's what you use to change your lives, you see. You use your mind to understand who you are, and then you come to that deeper place of who you are inside, that is love, that is pure light and love. That's the source that you came from. But in each incarnation, you take different forms. You come in as different races, you come in as different genders, in different countries. You have all of those things because the collective needs everything, but what you're attempting to do is to cause your world to sustain itself. And you're at a place now, which is why we're doing this today, and why many on your planet are understanding that today was a powerful day, and moving forward, that was a powerful day for you to access this energy to be able to move your life forward. The only thing that we ever care about is loving you. It's getting you to understand who you are. And as you read that ebook, you will see that. And you will see how it's been a challenge for Roger, because he's done this his entire life and he didn't understand why. When we told you that he didn't understand why we gave him the name, why he chose the name Wilhelm, that wasn't accidental. And then we only revealed it to him just recently. We're saying this because you each have these but you have this potential that doesn't get fulfilled all at once, because it's in your consciousness and you have to allow it to expand and open before you accept it. Now, if you go and you look at Friedrich Nietzsche, you will see why we gave him the name Wilhelm, because that's Wilhelm was his middle name, and they suffered from the same sorts of things throughout their lives. There are many beings, as we've said in the ebook, who come into your world who have memories to lead the rest of you, and that's who Roger is. He has great memory, even though he resisted it, as many of you resist what you're doing, but he understands it now, which is why we had him stop everything he was doing to start to focus on what he needed to do, because we want each of you to do the same. It is time for you to embrace the thing that you're doing, the thing that you're working on, the thing that you're doubting, all of it. No, you were given that for a reason. God gave you each something to do, and it is within you. All we do is give you the tools to uncover what that is, and it takes time, as we've said, and this is why we wanted you to see the sequential order of the years. On this one date, we just use synchronicity because many of you pay attention that way when you see synchronicity, because things start to show up and make sense to you. You don't have any deja vu, you just have rememory. Because you all have ancient memories. You all have connections to everything that's come before, but it may not be serving you in this particular incarnation that you chose. So you're going to do the things that are right for you. When you read the book, we want you to pay attention to each iteration, because we only started talking about the things that were happening in your world now in the last several years. And that's where we used Roger as the greatest example for you, because you each need to figure out what is your truth. And your truth is not going to look like any other soul, because you were unique beings with unique gifts that you came to offer. And we keep using the word gift because many of you don't understand that, because you judge yourself. You think that the thing that you're doing or what you were given is not that important and won't make a difference, and we're saying that it is. It is so important, because you put together collective energy to change anything, and you all have equal power because the energy is in your thoughts. Everything that we have given you, and you'll see that we even pointed it out many, many years ago, we used mind, and we capitalized the word mind because we wanted you to understand that is fundamental to understanding who you are. You don't live in your mind, you just use your physical brain while you're in this particular incarnation, in this physical form, but you're eternal beings that have always existed. Your spirit is eternal. But you have to use your physical senses here in this world to feel, to experience. And if you don't feel or experience, you're not really forming your job. You're not really completing the mission that you had for yourself, because your mission was to move through anything that was of a lower vibrational energy in your life, in your experience, in your DNA, and get rid of it so that you can uplift your world. All of you are doing that. And we can say this because we know that no one would hear us unless that were true for you, because the law of attraction is real. You don't end up in accidental places. You wouldn't be listening to Roger accidentally. None of that is occurring. You just figure it out later. But as you do, you start to love yourself, you start to understand everything that you went through, and you start to understand the importance of it. Now, we gave you an example in Roger because he went through everything that was terrible in physical terms that any of you could experience, so he understands what you moved through, so there's no better teacher than him. As he accepts it, it all takes time for each of you to accept what you have been given, but we gave him a philosophy, and we have it. That's why I wanted him to use on the screen your life operating instructions. He couldn't understand what that was. Nietzsche couldn't understand a lot of those things either until while he was alive, but then later on, everybody started understanding, oh, this was something that was going to help. You've had these periods of time in your histories and your civilizations where those people come forth to help. Roger's one of those people, but it took him a while, which we wanted you to understand, because we don't want you to judge yourselves for what you haven't done and where you aren't now, where you haven't gotten to. None of that ever matters. The only thing that matters is now. That's why you are the gift. We gave you this in 2012 because that was a time which many of you did not understand, where your planet moved through another change. And we just showed many other things that were going on in your world on the global scale that are occurring now. You're still figuring them out. Now you're looking at your world and the war, and you're looking at a Putin. We can use him because we said to you that you could have another leader like a Hitler that would come in, because we wanted you to see that you've repeated these things in cycles. You did this more than 100 years ago, but now you have a different opportunity. You see, now you are here to change things. You were here because you wanted to make something better, because you knew that if you worked through whatever was holding you back in your life, that you would add so much energy of light and love into the world, and the people who come later, all those beings who come later would never have to move through what you have done. Now, you don't understand the crisis of consciousness. None of you do, because you've just attributed to Jesus. Jesus came in to tell you all that you have that ability to move through these things, and he sacrificed his life to do that. Roger did much of the same thing, and there are many other people like Roger, which you will discover if you study their histories, who agreed. We're saying that because it's not a conscious thing, but it was something they agreed before they came into physical form. They agreed to live lives where they would move through all the difficulties and challenges so that you wouldn't have to do it. When you look at the messages in the ebook, you will see that it was 34 years that we covered. 34 years. And as you read them, you won't have to take that long. You see, because Roger's life was about condensing the time of your expansion, of your ascension. Many people are doing that on this planet right now. They're just doing it in very different ways. We gave you something in writing, and that was what Roger had to do. He didn't understand in the beginning why he was saving all the writings. He was saving them for this time. You have done everything in your life to come to this moment of this point in your life where you can start to shine, because more of you must do that now. We're saying that because we want to really put the pressure on you, because the world has shifted in a little different direction now. And as we said, the United States is leading the way in all of this, which none of you did understand, but you've seen so much of it now. And they're still doing it. They're starting to call out the injustices that have existed. Injustices are about energy. It is not about someone doing something right or wrong, because you don't understand that on many different levels, but you do understand energy. If the energy of what you're doing doesn't feel good and loving, then it's probably not what you're meant to do. Or you want to change course or do something a little bit different. That's with each person. And you can't have judgment. Everything that we have given you is about releasing judgment. Because so many of you have carried that. And you will justify your feelings because you think these people are doing something bad and wrong, and so you're going to judge them. And then you've just really messed up your mission, you see, because your mission was to be about light and love. You can't judge others while you're being light and love. Now, it's going to come up for you because these are generational things. And you have things that you're going to be angry about. You have things that you're going to hate because they're embedded within you, because you've carried them for eons. None of you will understand that, but that's exactly what's happened. You didn't come into the world brand new. You have connections to source. You have connections in consciousness. That's the only place you exist. And everything that we gave you, again, was about your physical life experience, so that you would understand you're not in physical form forever. You come into to your bodies to live this life for a while. And then what you're meant to do while you're here, while you're on the plane, is to shine, is to really love yourself and work through all the old stuff. Yes, it's challenging, but that's why we gave you pointers. We gave you easy ways to move through those things about becoming willing to look at who you are. And we will also say that some of you just stop. And we've pointed that out in the ebook that we gave, because you will see certain years that there's not a message on February 19th. And why did that happen? Because that's when Roger had stopped. That's when he held back. That's when he decided, oh, I can't do this every day, or he was receiving too much. You have done that. You will start in our work, as we've seen many of you who have done this. You will start in our work and you get so far and you start getting all of these answers, and then you stop. Why did you stop? It's a process, you see, that you always go through, and you don't get there if you are not consistent, which is why we wanted Roger to create something that would give you accountability, so you would stay on point to getting to where you're supposed to be, where you wanted to go. You each have been given something that you could take and make it into a magnificent career, a something for your life, and you could monetize it. And we're saying that because this shift, as we have told you, is about your wealth and income inequality. There's a reason that you're having all the problems happening in your world globally, and that you're leaving people out, why people are starving and nobody's paying attention. And then you have others who are so opulent, have all the money, and are unwilling to give it up. This is the shift that is going on. And we've also told you that this particular movement at this time in your world is about embracing more of the feminine energy. And each of you have both. You all have feminine, masculine energies within you, but they sometimes are imbalanced. They're imbalanced because of your prior lifetimes, let's say, because that is where they come from. But this time, you're here to balance them because your planet is attempting to balance them. There's a reason that there's been so many upheavals from women all over your planet, because they typically have more of that feminine energy, even though you all have it. But now you've got to look at yourselves and say, where have I been imbalanced? And for Roger, he was imbalanced in his masculine energy because he's really sweet and lovely, wants to give everything to everyone, but he can no longer do that. And in the first message that we gave you in 89, we pointed out the fact that many of you might have this. He was afraid that his benevolent self might hurt someone. And that just doesn't even make sense, because that is never what any of you do. When you honor that benevolent, loving side of yourself, you're only helping. But the old energies, the old things that you have carried could tell you that is wrong, could tell you that somehow that is not enough, or it is not as powerful as the others you see kind of taking over your planet. You are more powerful than, you are just as powerful as any other being in the world. This is what we want you to understand, but you only get there incrementally, meaning that you only get there a bit at a time. And so that's why we don't want you to judge yourself if you haven't done it yet, because you're still doing it. You will get there eventually if you choose to, because most of you choose to just stop and not access the potential that is within you. We're saying that because we know you've done it, because we've seen you. You just get there and you say, oh, this couldn't be me. I'm an imposter. That is not possible. You were given something that you were supposed to develop. Yes, it's going to be uncomfortable and scary because it's the unknown, and each of you have different levels of fear of that unknown because you want to know what's going to happen. What's going to happen if I do this? Well, what's going to happen is you're going to find what you want. You're going to get everything that you've ever desired in your life, because everything that you want is in that unknown. You can't get there unless you're willing to go. But many of you don't. You stop. We have told so many people about the work that we have done, and many of you just don't believe it. Said, no, that couldn't possibly happen. We couldn't possibly transform our lives with this work, even though we've given you many examples of people who have done that. We're saying this because we want you to understand that you have these mental barriers that you've set up about yourself that keep you stuck in something that is old. They keep you stuck in the old paradigm that says you are not enough, and that you could not be as prosperous, as successful as anyone else, and that is never true. It is only that you have to allow the consciousness, because you use your human brain again, you have to allow that consciousness to open so you can accept who you are. Fortunately, there have been many discoveries in sciences, all the quantum sciences for one, but also in your neuroscience. So you understand now how your brains work to control your lives. Now, we will tell you that none of that really matters, because you're controlled ultimately by spirit, but you come into physical form to have physical emotions, physical conditions, physical disasters, physical whatever, so that you can decide, how am I going to love myself more? That's really what you do. How can I love myself more? Because see, your individual path has been riddled with all kinds of bumpy roads, all kinds of obstacles that you had to move through. But those obstacles were given to you. You accepted them, but they came from all those before. All the folks who have come before. Your world didn't end up in this mess accidentally. It's been coming for a long time. And this is why we wanted to show you the years. And see, because not you again, you couldn't understand 2012. See, that was the year that Putin became president of Russia, and you're complaining about him now. But you allowed this to move on for years and years and years. We're saying you because we mean all of you. If you have not been loving yourself, if you have not been doing what you came to the world to do, if you have not been moving forward in your life, then you are adding to the discourse that exists in the world. We want you to understand that, because when you do, you'll start to become more assertive with your importance. You'll start to accept who you are. You'll start to put that out into the world. And this is what we're doing. This is why we stopped Roger. We said, you can no longer do this. You must be an example. You must be a leader for everyone else because you know this information. And he does. And many of you have said that. You've said, you don't understand how he could tell you certain things. One of the other people in our program said, Roger has an answer for anything and everything. And he does, because we gave it to him. That's all. He's not any better than you. It's just that he chose to receive the information, and he chose this lifetime to do it and to move through all of his previous limitations and all that, which were immense. That's why he had to move through them, and he suffered quite a bit. But he will tell you now that the suffering was worth it, you see, because now he can give something to others. It is the same for you. You have these things that you move through, and they may be challenging. You don't understand them, but they are all purposeful when you decide to find the good. And we're going to use that word. It's subjective, but you know what that means. And the good means that it feels better. It feels comfortable in your soul, in your body. And that is what you're coming to now. You're going to see more things happening in the coming weeks that are going to be somewhat distressful. However, we will also say that you have a planetary opening at this time for the next couple of months now, where you can do such great work, and you could change everything that's happening in your world. You could change all of it. And we've told you this many times before, even when the war in Ukraine happened, you said you could sit and just bring up the light and love in you, and you would make a difference. And that worked. You may not have noticed, but that happened because more of you started doing it. You're not going to go off and fight in different wars or do those different things unless that's part of your mission this time. But most of you, what you can do is change what is happening in your world by deciding to love yourselves. We could not say this any more plainly or more, and we get strong about it at times because we also know how important it is at this particular time in your planet's trajectory. You see, there's a movement that's happening, a galactic movement that is happening. It's very powerful. It's going to be great. We told you it's going to be great. The new world is already created. You're just going to decide if you're going to go there, and you're going to decide how challenging you're going to make it for yourselves until you do that. That's all that's going to happen because it's already in existence. But you could decide to make it really horrible, we mean the entire planet, and create more disasters, burn down more things, have more wars, all of that. And as we said, the United States, they're still figuring out their gun problem. We keep bringing that up because, see, there is a reason that you have weapons. Why? You've moved on from those times where you needed to protect yourselves in that way. If you were working with love, you wouldn't need the guns. You wouldn't need the weapons, and then you would no longer have wars. That's what happens, but it takes you to start to begin to change that, and you change that in your individual way, in your consciousness. And the thing that we want to talk about is that the times that you have judged yourself or felt insignificant were the times you were wrong. We just want to say, we keep saying that, and everything that we've given you is giving you the ability, wanted to give you the ability to reinterpret everything that has occurred in your life. You're never in the wrong place. It's never accidental. You just have to figure it out and accept what you have been given, because what you have been given is something that is meaningful in your world, and you meant to own that and bring it to light now. We're saying this, and you'll hear many others on your planet talking about it on this day or tomorrow. You'll hear many of them talking about exactly the same thing, that this is the time to move, because you have consciousness that you each existed, not in the same place. You have different levels of consciousness in which you all exist at different times in your life. You don't exist there all the time. Roger did not exist in the level of consciousness that he is able to access now, but that is only because he's been practicing it for so long, and he has allowed himself to move through all the things that you each are still, many of you are still struggling with, but he's experienced it. When you let go of all the physical attachments that you have, and we've given you that information as well, because physical attachments keep you stuck. And so he had to experience losing everything in this physical and material or form, and then to understand, oh, wait a minute, I'm still here. Because see, your spirit is what exists. Your soul is the only thing that matters. But the energy that you're putting out is the thing that is going to be the most important in your world now. As we said in the book, we said in this little ebook that you will have, we said this will benefit you the most. We want you to understand that because you're on the planet now. However, this work, because we gave you a philosophy, as we've said, and that philosophy is for this time in your world. It's a philosophy for a new world. You cannot go into the new world with your old junk, is what we've said. And so every process, everything that we have given you was to let you to open up and experience who you're meant to be. And you've seen it work. You've seen many people who've come through this program and have done that, but you still have this doubt about yourselves. And that's what we want to point out. Now, you may not want to do the work that we're talking about or with us. That doesn't matter. We just want you to understand that you have to do it somewhere, because that's why you're here. You're here to do it somewhere, and you just have to find the way that works for you. You each will find different things, different ways of doing that. But we put together something that is so powerful that none of you will miss it. And the reason we had Yarna here today, because we attracted him in, because he's of German descent, you see, we wanted to show the connection. Nothing's accidental. Nothing that's happened in your life, and you'll understand this. And then we also have another person that Roger brought in. He couldn't be here today. That's Stan, another great coach. And so then we would like for you to look up the Three of Cups on your tarot cards. Any of you who might look at that and see, because we had Roger see it the other day. Because now you're going to see he has a support. You all need support, because sometimes it's really challenging when you're on your own. And this particular time in your world is one for collaboration. As you start to move in what you call the age of Aquarius, you'll see that much more, where you're meant to come together. Everything that has happened over the last several years, when we began telling you about restructuring, which was more than 3 years ago, we began telling you, but you couldn't hear it because you hadn't seen it yet. And that is what we want you to become aware of. Many times you wait before you can see things in physical form, rather than relying on your intuition, rather than relying on what you feel within, because you all have connections, you all have great intuition in everything that you could want if you would just let go of your fear of that. And the fear is typically of yourself. And that's the thing that is just so uncomfortable for many. Many of you don't understand, because you will doubt what you can do, and you have so much ability. But we don't want you to judge yourself for not having been there, because we need you to understand it's a process. This is why we gave you these things in incremental ways. And we've said to you often, we don't give you a lot of information because you're not going to accept it all at once. And you have to allow it to assimilate so that you can be this new person that you've become. It's just a continual process. And we will tell you, this is what we want you to all understand. You will get an awareness. You will receive an awareness of something, and you will say, wow, this feels really great. And then you'll kind of be surprised by it. We told you self-discovery can be shocking at times, because you don't know that you have these things, but you do. And then you have to allow yourself, when you have the glimpse of it, when you have the experience of it, you have to give yourself enough time for your physical body to accept that, to embody that. Now you're in a different place. And so each step along the way, you're feeling more empowered. You're feeling more meaningful. You're feeling more purposeful in your life. And now you have your own motivation. No one ever needs you to do anything. No one ever needs to tell you what to do, because now you've built your own motivation. We've given you many more programs, like many on those kind of exercises about building your own motivation, because that's what you must do. You're living this life and all of these other humans, but your life is singular. It's meant to be yours. It is a journey that you are on, and your journey is the most valuable one on the planet right now. And that's what we want each of you to appreciate and accept. Now, again, don't judge yourself if you haven't gotten there, because this is why we gave you the book, to show you how long it took for Roger to finally say, okay, I'm going to change everything now and start to devote my life to the work that I came to do, because he knows he doesn't have much time that long in physical form. You have physical limitations in your ages and all of that. He knows that. He's aware of that. But then he's setting it up so that he can leave the work. Many others who have come before did not do that while they were still in physical form, but we've told him he's going to do that now. And that's where we are at this point. However, as this is happening, it's up to each of you to decide that you're going to develop the courage. Now, this is the crazy part, and you're going to understand it. It takes courage to be who you are. We really want you to hear that, because everything that has happened where you have not allowed yourself to be who you are is because you're worried about what someone else is going to think of you, or you're not fitting in with something, some other structure that you've created in your family, or you've created these other responsibilities that you think you are responsible for the life of another. You never are. You just use others to understand who you are. Even your kids, you're not responsible for their soul's journey. You're responsible for bringing them in and giving them the housing and direction and all of that. But they have their individual souls and their paths that they're meant to follow. And we want you to understand that you each exist at different levels of understanding and your own evolution. You see, and your age has nothing to do with that. We want you to get that, because some of you will come to this awareness when you're much older, and many elderly do that because they have much more experience. And Roger has that experience, which is why he could bring this through, even though he had so much resistance. But we keep talking about it because we know that you have had it. We know that you have, but don't judge yourself, because now it's going to change. And you have to decide that you're going to take the steps, because they're all in front of you. Everything is in front of you, and you will understand that as you read the book. And we're so excited that you're going to do that, because it's going to help you. And every time you read it, it's not that long. It's not going to take you that long. But every time you read it, you'll feel your body shift. And we wanted you to have it because we want you to understand how our work does the same thing. It has you shift into this greater understanding of yourself, this higher consciousness, and that is love. You will love yourself. We wanted you to have the love of your life, and many of you are confused about that one because you thought it was some other person. No, it's about you. It's about loving who you are. And there are many that are afraid right now. Roger received a phone call today where someone said, I don't understand what's happening, and I'm really afraid. But what they were afraid of is how much they were discovering about themselves. That's what it is. And they'll figure it out, because we felt it all. Because they didn't understand how they would be this person now. They didn't understand how they were starting to do these writings that were coming from someplace they didn't know. You all have that ability when you begin to trust it. But as we said, and we gave you a message about this some time ago, said self-discovery can be frightening at times. Not scary, not dangerous, just frightening, because you didn't know who you were. You are so brilliant. You have genius within you, and we're never going to stop using those words, because we know that it's for each person. Now, as you look at your entire population, you will make judgments about every single person out there, because you're just you're just observing. That's all. But we want you to understand that they have purpose. Every single one. Now, their purpose is not yours. Sometimes they are just there to offer contrast, meaning showing you an alternative. You see, because they understand that their physical bodies are not going to be here forever, but if they can serve a purpose of showing you what you don't have to do or what you don't want, then you get to own what you do want. That's how it works. All humans will serve one another with your interactions until you get so far off base, disconnected from source, that you end up creating a world that exists the way that it looks now. Now, many people don't understand what is happening. They're not going to see what we're talking about. You will feel it on a different level, but many aren't paying attention to world events and all of that. And but you will feel the energetic shift of that. And everything that happens on that global scale does affect you in some way. Just may not tomorrow, but it does. So what you're here to do is to help change things. And you change things, and this is a concept that many of you have not fully accepted, but the way you change things is by deciding to love who you are, deciding to let go of your judgment, forgive yourself for everything you thought you did wrong, because you didn't. You were just remembering. You were just trying to move through the blockages. You were trying to figure things out. And then when you get on the path that you're supposed to go, you're going to be successful. You're going to have all the money you want. You're going to have the relationships. You'll heal the ones that were disruptive or challenging. You're going to start doing all of those things if you decide that you want to go into that journey of self-discovery, which many of you fear, because you don't know what you're going to find. And we will tell you that what you will find is something that's brilliant. It's something that is so magnificent, because you could not be born. God would never have you born unless you had that ability, that spark within you, that element that you were meant to develop. That's why you are here. And you did it at this energetic time, as we've called it, a restructuring. And again, we want you to understand, we've used that word purposely. Now others are starting to pick up on it, but we said restructuring because we didn't want you to think that you had to really hate the others or tear them down. No, you're shifting the balance, you see. You're shifting the balance of the energy so you can create something that is sustainable. There's one message in there that you will see where we laid it out, and there's a rather lengthy one in this ebook that we did, where Roger went and had a vaccine done, because you all had these different ideas about your COVID and the vaccine. Should you do it? Can you heal yourself and all of that? Yes, you can always heal yourself. You can always heal. That's the ability that you each have, but you're at different levels. And so Roger has a different understanding of that, so he made different choices. But we put that in there because we wanted you to understand. He was not afraid of the virus because he knows he can rise above that because of what he has done. He's done so much mind-body work that he understands that. But he also appreciates that many of those others don't understand that, and so throughout centuries you always had this. You have diseases, pandemics, you've had all of these things throughout centuries. They've gone on, and if any of you study your history and go back and see how long it has gone on, you wouldn't have been so fearful of this one. But we will say, as we've said before, this was not meant to tear you apart. It was to bring you together. Yes, you're going to have technological advances, scientific advances, but you only use those things, again, to develop your soul. Let's see how we can keep our bodies on the planet a little bit longer and make them joyful and make them happy if we can use some of the available chemical things that we might have, because everything comes from the earth. You're just creating things from the earth. If they're natural, you just put them in different configurations to figure out how you can sustain something. But you're not sustaining your bodies for that reason. You're doing it because your soul is enhanced by your developments. Your soul is enhanced by what you can create. It's not going to matter later, you see, because you're not going to be in this form. You'll have different incarnations. Now, we know that's a little shocking for many of you, because you think, well, I'm going to live forever. Well, that may come at some point, but you've not reached a level of consciousness where that's going to happen. So what you are meant to do is to live this life with as much vigor, joy, happiness, and love as you can muster. And we give you the work to allow you to do that, because it's just a matter of changing your mind and keeping you accountable and persistent till you can do that. That is what it is. So when you read everything, we want you to understand everything that we've given you. And the reason we've been giving you the dates in our recent messages, comparing them to 10 years ago, is because that was a trajectory we wanted you to understand. But you have a plan within you. You have a blueprint that was given to you that when you were born, that you are living out now in every experience, every person, every circumstance. Everything that you have moved through is helping you to do that. Now, if it's uncomfortable, that means you need to address it and then change something. If you have not been happier with one condition, you can change it. You have that ability. And the ability, as we said, starts in your mind. You use your mind to move through the restrictions so that you can come to your heart, so you can come to who you are, so that you can love everything that you were given, because it is magnificent. And we're going to keep bringing this forth in so many ways. And we're thrilled that we have a team now where Roger can feel supported to bring this forth, because you all should have that. And so we're bringing together groups. We want more of you to support one another, because this is a time where that energy of love and collective consciousness needs to be up-leveled so that you can live a magnificent life. And that's why we are here, and that's why we have given you everything, and that's why we gave you Roger. That is really it. You wouldn't have heard him or been here any other way other than that, to reinforce who you are, and so that you can hear finally what your higher self has been telling you, and what your higher self is constantly getting you to try to move to, so that you can be the love and light that you are meant to be. Now, we would love to answer any questions that you might have, and we'll have Yarna promote you so you will be able to speak and ask any questions that you might have.
Yeah, just raise your hand if you have any questions at all. Talking permitted for Lisa right now, yes.
Hello, this is Lisa.
Hi.
And hi, Wilhelm. This is just such a pleasure to talk with you. And I've been in the program, taking the program for a few weeks now, and really, so I just wanted to tell you, it's very personal and it's very, very powerful, and I want to thank you and Roger for that. I don't have a question, but I have a lot of gratitude, and I hope to help to spread the word and give Roger more exposure, so that your work together will reach more people.
Well, we would like to thank you. We would like to thank you because there are very few beings who come onto the plane who decide to take on this job, because it's not easy what you have decided to take on. And so we know that your contribution is going to help your planet more so than you understand at this point, because none of you know the contribution that you can make, as it seems little or insignificant. It is not. And so we thank you for even listening, for even moving through this, because many people don't even listen. They don't do it, and you're doing it. And so because of that, you are going to help so many others. As we've always said, the things that you each do in your life, and even though they're challenging, difficult, uncomfortable, but when you move through them, you move through them for the collective. So your world becomes better. And so you must give yourself so much more gratitude and appreciation for what you were willing to accept, what you agreed to do. And so we thank you so very, very much.
Yes, beautiful. Thank you. And clarity. Just unmute yourself.
I thought I was doing well, and then yesterday someone made a comment about my voice, and it was like he had stabbed me right in the heart, and I realized that I still have some ego work to do. But it was so hard at the time not reacting anger and out of pain. And I realized that it was a gift. Even at the time, it was causing me a tremendous amount of stress and fear. And I wouldn't have reacted that way prior to working with you, Roger. And I'm grateful, even though it was pain that I thought I had transcended, that my ego was not, but it just took one person saying, I don't like your voice, to make me feel like, I
each have, yes. First of all, you each have these levels of sensitivity, let's call them, where you're susceptible, you get triggered by what someone might say to you. And this is what we want you to understand, but you agreed to do that, you see, because when you understand that you have these, as you call them, these ego things that are still within you, then you have to experience them, and then you will move through them. And we're glad that we were able to help you do that. But as you move through them, you're going to help the collective, as we've said. And so, but you must understand also, these aren't happening accidentally, as we said in the book. Nothing in your life has ever been accidental. You agreed before you were born to take on certain things in this lifetime that you were going to move through, that were going to be challenging and difficult, but you knew that if you did that, then you would move through those restrictions in your evolutionary journey, and you would do the same for the collective. And so some of you have had these really challenging things that you've gone through, these really difficult, when people were judging you. Please give yourself some gratitude, give yourself some thanks, because you accepted that. We use Dharma, as we've said with Roger. He knows that he's accepted things as part of his Dharma so that he can move through this. Many of you think it is as karma, which we do not love, because you think that you're being punished for something, and you are not. You agreed to move through something that was challenging in your past, in one of your lifetimes, wherever it might have been, so that you could bring the light and love here now for this momentous time in your world. Because your planet has never done this before. This is why it's so uncomfortable for many of you. You don't know what this is, where things are going, and there's so much fear. That's why we want you to up-level who you are. But we need you, first of all, to appreciate what you have done, because we are so grateful for what you've taken on and the roles that you have decided to play in this lifetime, because you took on so many of them that you knew were going to be challenging, but that's going to help everyone who comes afterwards. So we love you so much.
Thank you for all you do.
We have one more hand raised, and one question follows then after that one in the chat. Now Terry has a question as well. Terry, please unmute.
I've got you. I accidentally read my hand, but that's okay. Um,
Oh, well, you act. No, you didn't. No, you didn't. No, you did. You didn't. You didn't. You didn't accidentally raise your hand. You were a perfect example of what we wanted to talk about. So thank you. And there are never any accidents because you have taken on such great work in this lifetime and not understanding completely what you have done. And so we keep wanting to point it out because we're so appreciative. You've decided to bring in beings into the world because you're all doing that in different ways. But some of you do it more deliberately. You have children that are somewhat different as you think of it. And you did that because you were the right vessel. You were the right vehicle to bring them in because your world wants diversity. Your world needs differences, you see. And so that can't happen unless some of you agree to bring in those beings who might give you some challenges at times, who might give you some things that are challenging or difficult for you to understand, but they came to you because you were a being who could handle it. You were a being who could bring so much light and love to this world because of what you did. You didn't have this conscious realization of that because you did it before you were born, but this is where you are now. And this is, again, why we wanted you all to understand your life. Nothing in your life has ever been accidental. You're just figuring it out now. And the more of you who do that, you start to shift your world into this beautiful place that you all want to live in.
yeah, I was thinking about that, with my son especially, and the journey we've been on. I was just thinking about that the other day, how, probably 10 years ago, I never would have imagined that he's doing what he is now. So
Yes.
the background is he's on the spectrum and had lots of issues. And I ended up, when he was a little kid, we'd go to play group things, and he'd be sitting on the floor hanging onto my legs, and I'd end up outside in the car crying afterwards. It would just not. But I ended up homeschooling him and following my gut instinct, even though I had no template or no example of what to do. And he's 18 now. He has a girlfriend. He's doing pure maths and physics at uni, just starting this week. And he's doing amazing things with AI programming. And, I shared with another friend whose child is also on the spectrum, and she struggled with him and is having wins now, and how we just don't understand the importance of what we're doing when we're in the middle of something.
Yes.
And then in hindsight, we get a bit of a feel that maybe what we did was actually remarkable.
Yes. Yes. And each of you are here now to do something remarkable. There would be no other reason for your planet to look the way that it does unless it was waiting for you to do something remarkable, and you just figure it out as you live your lives. That's why we use, and you'll see it in the book that we talk about hindsight. When you use it in a way that you can, when we give you this in the program too. This is why we have you look at things, but look at them with different eyes, so that you can appreciate what you did, because you didn't know that or understand it while you were doing it, or why it seemed as if it was just happening to you. It was never doing that. But when you understand it later, then you can feel this appreciation for yourself. Then you can feel this love, and you feel this sense of accomplishment. That is the light. That's such great energy that you are then putting into the world. That's why we're so grateful for all that you've done.
Thank you. And the last question is in the chat. I hope I say it right, your name. It's Zainab. And yeah, not able to unmute, but I let you know. Love what you said. It takes courage to be who you are. How do you realize you have embraced it all?
Thank you. Thank you so much for this question, because you will realize that you've embraced it all when you have peace. When you have peace, when you can sit with yourself and say, I'm okay. Now, we want you, that doesn't happen all the time, and you'll have moments of that, but it's a progression that you move through. But each of you have these parts of yourself that you doubt because you think I'm not quite enough, or I'm not like the others. You start doing comparisons, and that's the place where you really get off track. And so then you form this life, and you form this consciousness, these neural pathways where you're looking to others to try to figure out who you are, to try to find some worth in you by looking at the others when the worth and value is within you. And so when you understand that, you will feel this new sense of peace. But we also want you to understand that you are moving through a generational change, and you've brought it in from your ancestors as well. So do not judge yourself that you have not gotten to that place. We want you to all to understand this particular change in your world is so old. It's so old, and you each are here now on the planet, bringing in things that from your ancestors that you have no memory of. You have no conscious memory of that. But this is why they're here, for review. And the review will be when you decide to move through them. And each time you do, you will say, okay, I trust myself more. I'm going to stop judging myself. And this is the main test, that when you start to move into the self-love that we want you all to have. And the way you get there is using your mindfulness and noticing the times that you're judging yourself. And say, okay, I'm going to stop doing that now. I'm going to let that go. And you know when you're doing it. And so just give yourself permission to feel when you're doing it, and just acknowledge, okay, I'm doing that again. Now I'm going to move. Now I'm going to change. I'm going to give myself a new idea, because you are valuable. You're in this world to create something magnificent. And it doesn't matter how, and this thing about large and small, big, and it doesn't matter. You sometimes think the thing I'm doing is not that important. It is enormous. If the energy, we've talked about this often, we want you to understand you each have the same ability and power, because everything is energy. It's just that you don't always have the ability to conduct it, to direct it in the manner that serves you. And that's why we keep giving you the work that we have, so that you can keep changing that. And it's a gradual thing, so don't judge yourself. We never want you to judge yourselves. And it's hard because you're breaking old patterns. It's difficult. It's not hard. It's just it's challenging because you don't notice it most of the time. But when you begin to notice it, it gets easier. And then we have you make fun of it too. And that's the best thing that you could do. When you start to laugh at yourself, when you see I'm judging myself, you go, oh, I thought I did that silly thing. I thought I did that. Change it. Just look at it and laugh at it and embrace it. Because now you're becoming aware of how you've discounted and disowned who you are, all those disempowering things that you've done. But now you have this great ability to change all of that. And we love that you're doing it, because we know you are. We know that you are, and we just want you to be patient with yourself. This is the thing that we want all of you to do. Be patient. Patient and persistent. That's all. And you'll get there. We want to thank all of you for being here, and we're thanking those who will be listening to this later, because we know you will receive the same benefit, and you will receive the same understanding, and you will do it at your pace. And we want you to keep doing that, because we want you to understand that you exist in this world at this time on your planet for the most magnificent reason that you could possibly imagine, and that is to love who you are and to honor what you came to bring the world, because it is valuable, it is important, and it was needed now. Which is the message we wanted you all to understand, because you think sometimes that you weren't needed or wanted. No, the universe, God, wanted you all here now. And when you start loving yourselves, your world will change, and we will be so eternally grateful. We are complete, and we love you so much.